The transport ship dropped out of faster-than-light travel with a shudder that Taiyang Park barely felt. He pressed his face against a small window, watching the massive military station grow larger against the black backdrop of space. Beside him, Yuna Choi was doing the same thing, her eyes wide with excitement. "Can you believe we're actually here?" she whispered. Taeyang couldn't believe it. 6 months ago, he was just another soldier in Earth's defense forces. Then humanity joined the Galactic Confederacy, and everything changed. Now he was heading to the most prestigious military training facility in this part of the galaxy. Out of millions of applicants from Earth, only 12 humans had been selected. The docking process took 20 minutes. When the airlock finally opened, Taiyang grabbed his bag and followed the stream of cadets into the station. The corridor was huge, easily 5 times wider than anything he'd seen on Earth. Species of all shapes and sizes moved around him. Some walked on 2 legs like humans. Others had 4 legs or 6 or floated on some kind of anti-gravity device. One creature that passed by looked like it was made of living crystal. "Attention all new cadets," a voice boomed through speakers in the walls. The voice was being translated into whatever language each species understood. "Report to Assembly Hall Theta immediately. Do not delay." Taiyang and Yuna exchanged glances and followed the signs. The assembly hall was enormous. Rows of seats stretched up toward a ceiling so high it was hard to see. Already, hundreds of cadets were finding places to sit. Taiyang noticed that the seats came in different sizes to accommodate different body types. He and Yuna found seats near the middle and sat down. "Look around," Yuna said quietly. "We're the only humans in this section." She was right. Taiyang counted at least 50 different species just in the seats he could see. Some were tall and thin. Others were short and wide. There were beings with fur, scales, and some with skin that seemed to shift colors. But no other humans nearby. A figure walked onto the stage at the front of the hall. It looked like a massive insect walking upright on 2 legs, with 4 other limbs folded against its body. Its head had multiple eyes that seemed to look in all directions at once. "I am Instructor Vorn," the creature announced. Its voice was sharp and clicking, but the translator made it clear. "You are here because you represent the best your worlds have to offer. This facility trains the Galactic Defense Forces. Our standards are high. Our expectations are higher." Instructor Vorn paced across the stage. "The Confederacy includes species from 47 different worlds. You come from planets with different gravity, different atmospheres, different evolutionary pressures. Here, we train as one. Our equipment is standardized. Our protocols are universal. We have calculated the average capabilities across all member species. The training you will receive is challenging but achievable for everyone." Taiyang listened carefully. He'd read about this in the preparation materials. The Confederacy believed in equality. Every species trained the same way, used the same equipment, met the same standards. It was supposed to build unity. "Tomorrow morning, you will begin physical assessments," Vorn continued. "We will measure your baseline capabilities. Strength, endurance, reaction time, and more. The equipment will adjust to your physiology automatically. You will be asked to perform at your safe maximum. We expect full effort, but we do not expect the impossible." The briefing continued for another hour. Vorn explained the schedule, the rules, the expectations. Finally, the cadets were dismissed to their assigned quarters. Taiyang's room was small but functional. A bed, a desk, a small bathroom. The walls were bare metal. Through another door, he could see into a shared common area. That's where he met Seok Nam, another human cadet. Seok was quiet, nodding more than speaking, but seemed friendly enough. The next morning came too quickly. Taiyang dressed in the standard training uniform they'd been issued and made his way to the gymnasium. The space was massive, filled with equipment he didn't recognize. Other cadets were already there, stretching or examining the machines. "Form lines at the testing stations," Vorn ordered. "You will each complete the strength assessment. Step up to the platform when called." Taiyang watched as other cadets went first. A short, furry being that reminded him of an otter stepped onto a platform. Gravity resistance modules activated around it. The cadet lifted handles attached to the modules, straining hard. A display showed the force being exerted. After 30 seconds, the cadet stepped down, panting. "Adequate," Vorn announced, making a note. More cadets went. Some did well. Others struggled. Taiyang noticed that the machine seemed to adjust for each person automatically. When a larger species stepped up, the gravity modules glowed brighter, indicating more resistance. "Cadet Taiyang Park," Vorn called. Taiyang stepped onto the platform. The modules activated around him. He gripped the handles and lifted. The resistance felt light, very light. He'd expected something challenging, but this was less than what he lifted during basic training on Earth. He completed the lift easily. Then again, and again. The display showed he'd reached what the machine considered his safe maximum, but he barely felt tired. "Is there a problem, Cadet?" Vorn asked. "No, sir," Taiyang said. Then he paused. "Sir, what are the actual limits on this equipment?" The gymnasium went quiet. Other cadets stopped what they were doing and looked over. Vorn's multiple eyes focused on Taiyang. "The limits?" Vorn repeated. "Yes, sir. The maximum load the machine can generate." Vorn made a clicking sound that the translator didn't convert. "The machine stops you at safe maximums, Cadet. That is the point. You lift what you can. The equipment ensures you do not injure yourself." "But what if I can lift more, sir?" Several cadets whispered to each other. A tall amphibious being Taiyang had met briefly the day before. Brix was his name. Stared with wide eyes. "The assessment is calibrated for all species," Vorn explained, his tone suggesting the matter was closed. "If you reached your maximum, step down." "Next cadet." Taiyang stepped down, confused. The weight had been so light. Back on Earth, he'd lifted 3 times that much during regular training. Yuna went next, and he could see the same confusion on her face when she completed her assessment easily. During the break, Brix approached them. "Is it true what I heard?" he asked. "You wanted more weight?" "The machine stopped too soon," Taiyang said. "It felt too light." Brix's eyes widened further. "Too light?" "I watched you. The machine was set to human parameters based on your physiology data. That was your species' safe maximum. But I barely felt it," Yuna added. Brix looked between them. "What kind of world do you come from?" "Earth," Taiyang said. "It's just a normal planet. What is the gravity?" Brix asked. Taiyang thought for a moment. 1G standard Earth gravity. Brix made a gurgling sound. 1G. That's high. My world is 0.7G. Most Confederacy worlds are between 0.6 and 0.9. Taiyang felt something click in his mind. "What's the training equipment calibrated for?" 0.8 G average, Brix said. "Universal standard." Before Taiyang could respond, Vorn called them back. "Resume testing. Endurance trials next." As they lined up, Taiyang looked at his hands. He'd never thought of Earth as a heavy world. It was just home. But if most species came from lighter planets, if they'd evolved under less gravity, "This is going to be interesting," Yuna whispered beside him. Taiyang nodded. He had a feeling she was right. A simple question about limits had started something. Around him, cadets were whispering, looking at the humans with new curiosity. Some looked interested, Others looked worried. Instructor Vorn stood at the front, his eyes fixed on Taiyang. The instructor's expression was unreadable, but Taiyang could sense something had shifted. The first day of training had just become much more complicated. The second day of training started with tension in the air. Word had spread through the facility about the humans and their strange question. When Taiyang entered the gymnasium, he could feel eyes following him. Cadets whispered to each other. Some moved away. Others moved closer, curious. Instructor Vorn stood at the center of the room. "Today we continue physical assessments," he announced. "Yesterday's results were recorded. Today we verify them. Some species show variable performance day to day. We test again to establish consistent baselines." Taiyang noticed that Vorn's eyes kept drifting toward the human cadets. All 12 of them were present now. They found each other after the first day and stuck together during meals. Safety in numbers, Yuna had joked. The testing began. Taiyang watched as other species performed. A 4-armed cadet managed to lift what the machine rated as impressive for its size. A floating jellyfish-like being used some kind of energy manipulation instead of physical strength. Each species had their own way of meeting the challenges. "Human cadets, step forward," Vorn ordered. All 12 humans moved to the testing platforms. Taiyang stepped up to his assigned station. The gravity modules activated. He gripped the handles. "Begin," Vorn said. Taiyang lifted. Again, it felt too light. He completed the repetitions easily. Beside him, Yuna did the same. So did Seok and the others. 12 humans, all finishing their maximum safe loads without breaking a sweat. Vorn's mandibles clicked together rapidly. He walked over to Taiyang's station and examined the display. "This matches yesterday's readings," he muttered. Then louder, "Increase resistance by 20%. The machine beeped in protest but complied. Taiyang lifted again. It was heavier now, more like what he expected, but still manageable. He completed the set. "Another 20%, Vorn ordered. Now it was getting challenging. Taiyang's muscles burned slightly as he lifted. His breathing grew heavier, but he finished the set. Around him, the other humans were doing the same. Some struggled more than others, but all of them completed the increased loads. The gymnasium had gone completely silent. Every cadet watched. Every instructor watched. The only sounds were the humans breathing and the machines humming. "Stop," Vorn said. He looked at his datapad, then at the humans, then back at the pad. "This is not possible. The equipment must be malfunctioning." "Sir, with respect," Taiyang said carefully. "I don't think it's the equipment." "Then what?" Vorn demanded. Before Taiyang could answer, alarms blared. "Medical officer to gymnasium immediately." Medical officer to gymnasium. Within minutes, a human woman in a white uniform rushed in. She looked to be in her 40s, with short black hair and tired eyes. "I'm Medical Officer Hanalem," she said. "What's the emergency?" Vorn gestured at the humans. "These cadets are exceeding safe maximums. I need them examined. There may be something wrong with their physiology." Hana looked at the humans, then at the machines, then back at Vorn. A small smile crossed her face. "There's nothing wrong with them, Instructor. They're just human." "Explain," Vorn ordered. Hana walked over to Taiyang's station and checked the readings. "Earth has higher gravity than most Confederacy worlds. 1 full G humans evolved under that constant pressure. Our bones are denser. Our muscles are stronger relative to our body mass. Our cardiovascular systems are built to pump blood against stronger gravity. What feels heavy to other species feels normal to us. But the safety protocols," Vorn began, "were calculated based on average Confederacy physiology." Ha finished. "Humans aren't average. Not in this way. Vorn was quiet for a long moment. Then he turned to Taiyang. "How much can you actually lift, cadet?" "I don't know, sir," Taiyang admitted. "The machine keeps stopping me." "Instructor," Hana warned. "Pushing them too hard too fast could cause injury." "I'm not pushing them," Vorn said. "I'm finding out the truth." He turned to his control panel and began adjusting settings. Manual override. Safety limits removed. Cadet Park. This machine can now generate up to 3 times the standard maximum. "Show me what you can do." Taiyang glanced at Hana. She nodded slowly. "Listen to your body," she told him. "Stop if anything hurts." Taiyang stepped back onto the platform. The gravity modules hummed with more power than before. He gripped the handles. They felt heavy now. Properly heavy. He took a breath and lifted up. The strain was real. His muscles worked hard. Sweat formed on his forehead. But he completed the lift. Then another. And another. He made it through 8 repetitions before his arms started shaking. 9. 10. On the 11th, he had to stop. He stepped down, breathing hard. His arms felt like rubber. The display showed he'd lifted 2.8 times the universal maximum. The gymnasium erupted in noise. Cadets shouted in their various languages. Some sounded amazed. Others sounded afraid. Bricks, the amphibious cadet, just stared with his mouth hanging open. "The rest of you," Vorn said to the other humans. "Same test." One by one, they performed. Yuna managed 2.5 times the standard. Seok hit 3 times exactly. The others ranged between 2 and 3 times. Every single one of them exceeded what the Confederacy considered possible for their size. "Endurance test," Vorn ordered. "Let's see how long they can maintain exertion." The endurance test was simpler. Step onto a platform. Resist the gravity modules pushing down. Hold position as long as possible. Most species manage 15 to 20 minutes before exhaustion forced them to stop. Taeyang watched the timer as he held his position. 20 minutes passed. His legs burned. 30 minutes. His whole body ached. 40 minutes. Other cadets had finished their tests and were watching him. 50 minutes. Vorn stood with his arms crossed, eyes fixed on the display. At 1 hour, Vorn called it. "Enough. Step down." Taiyang's legs almost gave out. He stumbled off the platform. Hana was there immediately, checking his vital signs. "You're exhausted, but okay," she said. "Drink this." She handed him a bottle of water. "How?" Bricks asked. He'd approached slowly, like he was afraid Taiyang might do something unpredictable. "How is this possible?" "Evolution," Hana explained. She seemed to have taken on the role of spokesperson. "Think about it. Your species evolved in 0.7 G. Every movement you make, your body only has to work against 0.7 G of force. Humans evolved in 1 G. Every step, every movement, every breath, we're pushing against more resistance. Our bodies adapted. We had to be stronger just to survive. So you're all like this?" Another cadet asked. This one was bird-like, with bright blue feathers. "All humans, yes," Hana confirmed. "This is normal for us." "Normal," Vorn repeated. He looked at his datapad again. "Captain Thel needs to see this. All of you, dismissed except the humans." "Humans, wait here." The other cadets filed out slowly, many of them looking back at the humans. When the gymnasium was empty, except for humans and instructors, a new figure entered. He was tall and covered in white feathers, with eyes like a hawk. Captain Thel, the facility commander. "Demonstrate," was all he said. Vorn had Taiyang perform the strength test again while Thel watched. Then Yuna, then Seok. The captain watched in silence, his expression unreadable. Finally, he spoke. This changes things, he said. Instruction protocols will need adjustment. Equipment will need recalibration. And he paused, looking at each human in turn. There will be questions. From other species. From the Council. Strength like this makes people nervous. Sir, we're not trying to cause problems, Taiyang said. I know, Fo replied. But problems are coming anyway. Word is already spreading through the station. By tomorrow, every species in the Confederacy will know about the heavy worlders. He turned to Vorn. Double their training loads. Give them challenges appropriate to their capabilities. And keep me informed. As they left the gymnasium, Yuna walked close to Taiyang. Heavy worlders, she said quietly. Is that what we are now? Taiyang thought about Earth, about the gravity that pulled at every step, about training in what was apparently 3 times the weight other species used, about how none of it had ever seemed strange until now. I guess so, he said. Behind them, they could hear other cadets whispering. The humans walked together, aware that something fundamental had shifted. They'd come here to learn. Instead, they taught the Confederacy something new, something that made them both fascinating and frightening. Tomorrow would bring more challenges. Taiyang was certain of that. But tonight, all he wanted was food and sleep. Even heavy worlders got tired. The news spread faster than Taiyang expected. By the 3rd day, reporters from various species-specific media networks had arrived at the station. By the 5th day, the story was on every major Confederacy newsfeed. Heavy worlders show unprecedented strength, read one headline. Are humans too dangerous for standard training? Read another. Taiyang tried to ignore the attention and focus on training. But it was impossible. Every session now drew crowds of observers. Some came out of curiosity. Others came with concern clearly visible on their faces or equivalent features. On the morning of day 8, Taiyang was called to Captain Thal's office along with the other human cadets. When they arrived, they found they weren't alone. A woman in diplomatic robes stood near the window. She was human, middle-aged, with sharp eyes that took in everything. I am Ambassador Jiwan Song, she introduced herself. I represent Earth in the Confederacy Council. Ambassador, Taiyang said, nodding respectfully. The other humans did the same. You've caused quite a stir, Jiwan said. It wasn't an accusation, just a statement. The Council is divided on how to respond. Some members see your abilities as an asset. Others see them as a threat. A threat? Yuna asked. We're just training like everyone else. You're training far beyond everyone else, Jiwan corrected. And that makes certain council members nervous. Particularly Councillor Dreth of the Palthian delegation. Captain Thel spoke up. Dreth has proposed that humans be segregated from standard training. He argues that the difference in physical capabilities creates an unfair environment. Segregated? Seok said. It was the most Taiyang had heard him speak in days. We came here to train with the Confederacy, not apart from it. I agree, Thel said. But Dreth has support. Species that evolved as thinkers rather than fighters are uncomfortable with the idea of beings who are both intelligent and physically formidable. Jiwan turned to face the humans fully. Here's what you need to understand. Most species in the Confederacy followed a similar evolutionary path. As they developed intelligence and technology, they lost physical capability. They didn't need strong bodies anymore. They had tools, weapons, machines. Physical strength became obsolete. But humans didn't follow that path, Taiyang said, beginning to understand. No, Jiwan confirmed. Humans developed intelligence without losing physical capability. In fact, Earth's high gravity meant you needed to maintain strength just to survive. You're an evolutionary anomaly. Smart and strong, That combination frightened species who were used to being one or the other. The room was quiet for a moment. Then Taiyang asked, "What do they want us to do?" "Some want restrictions on human training," Thal said. "Limits on what you're allowed to attempt. Others want humans transferred to specialized facilities away from other species. That's not fair," Yuna protested. "No," Ji-Wan agreed. "It's not. But politics is rarely fair. I'm working to find a compromise. Something that addresses the Council's concerns while not punishing you for being who you are." Before anyone could respond, there was a knock at the door. An instructor Taiyang didn't recognize entered. She was human, tall and muscular, with close-cropped hair. She moved with the confidence of someone who'd spent years perfecting physical control. "This is Instructor Minji Quan," Thal introduced. "She's a former Earth Olympic athlete and has been brought in as a special advisor." Minji nodded to the group. "I've reviewed your performance data. Impressive, but also concerning, apparently." She said the last word with a hint of sarcasm. "I've been asked to develop specialized training protocols for human cadets. Training that challenges you appropriately without making you look like you're showing off." "We're not trying to show off," Taiyang said. "I know," Minji replied. "But perception matters. Here's what I propose. You continue training alongside other species for tactical and strategic courses. But for physical training, we create a separate program. Not because you're being segregated, but because your needs are different. Just like how aquatic species have different requirements, or species that breathe different atmospheres." "Will that satisfy the Council?" Ji-Wan asked. "It's a starting point," Thal said. "We're framing it as accommodation, not restriction. Humans have different physical requirements due to their homeworld evolution. We're simply providing appropriate training, same as we do for any species." Over the next week, the new system was implemented. Taiyang and the other humans attended regular classes with all species. Combat tactics, military history, strategy and leadership, technology and systems. In these classes, they were equal to everyone else. Sometimes better, sometimes worse, but normal. But physical training happened separately. Minji designed programs that actually challenged them. Weights that were heavy, even by Earth standards. Endurance courses that lasted hours. She pushed them hard, harder than the standard Confederacy training ever had. On Earth, Minji explained during one session, children carry weights that would challenge adult members of other species. Gravity makes us work harder from birth. That's not something to apologize for. It's just who we are. But not everyone was satisfied. Dreth, the Pelthian counselor, continued to raise objections. Taiyang saw him once in the station's common area. Dreth looked like an octopus that had decided to walk upright, with tentacles that never stopped moving. He was surrounded by aides and was speaking loudly enough for everyone to hear. Physical power combined with intelligence and ambition, Dreth was saying. History shows this combination leads to conquest, to warfare. The Confederacy must be cautious. Brix, who had become friendlier with the humans over the past weeks, approached Taiyang after hearing this. "Does that bother you?" "What Dreth says?" Taiyang considered the question. "Yes, but I understand why he's worried. His species probably has some historical reason to fear the strong. The Pelthians were conquered twice in their history," Brix explained. "My species stronger than them. It shapes how they see the galaxy." "We're not conquerors," Yuna said. She joined them along with Seok. "We know that," Brix said. "Most of us do. But Dreth speaks for many who are afraid. Fear doesn't listen to reason." The breakthrough came 3 weeks into training. Captain Thel called a station-wide assembly. Every cadet, every instructor, every staff member attended. Dreth was there too, standing in a special section for visiting council members. Tell stood at the podium. There has been much discussion about human capabilities, much fear, much speculation. Today, we address this directly. He gestured, and Instructor Minji walked onto the stage. Behind her, several pieces of training equipment were being wheeled out. This, Minji said, pointing to a standard gravity resistance module, is what most species train with. Point AG resistance. Standard Confederacy protocol. She easily lifted the handles. This is appropriate for most member species. She moved to the next piece of equipment. This is what humans train with. 1.2 G resistance. Higher than standard, but not dramatically so. She lifted it. It was clearly heavier, but still manageable. Now, she continued, I want to demonstrate something. She picked up a small container. These are gravity weights from Earth. Human children wear these during physical education classes. Children ages 10 to 12. She attached the weights to her arms and legs. Then she picked up the standard Confederacy equipment again. This time, her movements were slower, more strained. She completed a few repetitions and stopped, breathing hard. With these children's weights on, the standard equipment becomes challenging even for me. And I was an Olympic athlete. She removed the weights. The point is this: humans aren't superhuman. We're not special. We simply grew up on a heavy world. Every single day of our lives, from birth, we've been lifting Earth's gravity. That's our normal. On Earth, what seems impossible to other species is what our children do. She looked directly at Dreth. We're not stronger because we're dangerous. We're stronger because our planet demanded it. That's not a threat. It's just environment. It's just environment. The assembly hall was silent. Then, slowly, Thel began clapping. Others joined. Not everyone. Taiyang noticed. Dreth and his group remained seated and quiet, but enough applauded that it filled the hall. After the assembly, things began to change. Slowly at first, then faster. More species approached the humans with curiosity rather than fear. Some asked questions about Earth. Others asked about human training methods. A few even asked if they could train with the humans, wanting to push themselves harder. Brix was one of the first. My world is lighter than the standard, he admitted. Maybe that's why I've always struggled with physical challenges. Could your methods help me? Minji considered this. Possibly. We'd need to be careful, build up slowly. Your body isn't adapted to high gravity work. But with time and proper progression, yes, we could help you get stronger. The program expanded. Humans still trained separately for their most intense sessions. But they also began teaching basic conditioning to other species. Not human-level training, the methods that helped each species push past what they thought were their limits. The key, Taiyang explained to a group of interested cadets, is questioning what you think is your maximum. The machines tell you to stop. Your mind tells you to stop. But maybe you can do more. Maybe your limits are higher than you think. That's what you did, Brix said. You asked about limits. You didn't just buy the endo. Week 4 brought a new training module, Zero Gravity Operations. The cadets would be taken to an orbital station attached to the main facility to learn how to function in space. Taiyang was looking forward to it. After weeks of gravity being such a focus, working without it seemed like a relief. The transport shuttle was piloted by Lieutenant Bora Young, a human who'd been serving in the Confederacy military for 3 years. She was cheerful and confident, making jokes as she flew them up to the orbital station. Zero G is weird at first, she told them over the intercom. Your inner ear goes crazy. Some species handle it better than others. Humans are pretty good at it, actually. Maybe all that gravity back home prepared us. The orbital station was older than the main facility. It had been built decades ago and showed its age. Paint peeled in places. Some panels looked worn, but it was functional, and that's what mattered for training purposes. Commander Krell met them at the docking port. He was Maxonian, made of a silicon-based material that looked like living rock. His voice rumbled when he spoke. "Welcome to Station 30. This facility is dedicated to zero-gravity training. You will learn to move, fight, and operate equipment in weightless conditions. Follow your assigned instructors." The cadets split into groups. Taiyang's group included Yuna, Seok, Brix, and several other species. Their instructor led them through the station corridors. Everything was designed for zero-G. Handholds everywhere. Cushioned walls. Equipment secured with multiple locks. "First rule," the instructor said. "In zero-G, momentum is your enemy and your friend. Every action has an equal and opposite reaction. Push off too hard, you'll hit the far wall. Too soft, you'll float in the middle with no way to reach anything. Control is everything." They practiced in a large open chamber, pushing off walls, catching themselves, learning to move efficiently. Taiyang found it challenging but enjoyable. His earth-trained muscles gave him good control over his movements. He could push off with precision, adjusting his force instinctively. After 2 hours of practice, they broke for a meal. The cafeteria was on the same level, attached to the training chamber. They were eating when the alarms sounded loud, harsh, emergency tones that made everyone freeze. "Structural failure in Module 7, a computerized voice announced. "Evacuate Module 7 immediately. Emergency crews respond." Commander Krell's voice came over the intercom. "All cadets remain in your current locations. This is not a drill. Instructors, secure your groups and await instructions." Their instructor looked worried. "Module 7 is the old training section. 30 cadets are in there right now." Through the walls, they could hear the emergency response. Crews rushing past. Shouted orders. The thud of equipment being moved. Taiyang stood near the window, trying to see what was happening. "Can we help?" Yuna asked the instructor. "No, stay here. You're not trained for emergency response." But staying still felt wrong. Taiyang watched as the minutes passed. 5 minutes. 10. The intercom crackled again. "Emergency crews cannot access Module 7. Structural collapse blocking all standard entry points. Engineering teams are preparing cutting equipment. Estimated time to access, 6 hours. 6 hours. Taiyang felt his stomach drop. How much life support do they have? He asked. The instructor checked his datapad. Module 7 is old. Life support systems are basic. With 30 people inside. He paused, calculating. They have maybe 3 hours. Less for species with higher oxygen needs. So they'll die before we can reach them? Brix said. The instructor didn't answer. He didn't have to. Taiyang moved toward the door. "Where's Commander Krell?" "Cadet, you need to stay here," the instructor ordered. "People are dying," Taiyang said. "I need to speak with the commander." He left before the instructor could stop him. Yuna and Seok followed. They found Krell in a command center, surrounded by screens and frantic crew members. A schematic of Module 7 showed on the main display. A support beam had collapsed, blocking the main entrance and damaging the walls. "Commander," Taiyang said. Krell turned. "Cadets should not be here. How much does that beam weigh?" Taiyang pointed at the collapsed support on the schematic. "The one blocking the entrance. 840 kilograms, Krell said. "Why? Can it be moved manually?" "No," Krell said immediately. "Impossible. We need hydraulic equipment. That's why it will take 6 hours. We have to bring the equipment from the main facility." 840 kilograms, Taiyang repeated. He did quick math in his head. In zero-G, weight didn't matter. Mass did. Momentum and inertia. But with enough people applying force, how thick is it? How long? Krell looked confused but checked his data. 4 meters long. 20 centimeters diameter. Why are you asking these questions? Because we can move it, Taiyang said. The command center went quiet. Everyone stared at him. Explain, Krell demanded. In zero-G, the beam has no weight, Taiyang said. It has mass, yes, inertia, but no weight. On Earth, 840 kilograms would be impossible for one person. But here, in zero-G, it's about applying force correctly, coordinating movement. You're suggesting you can move a beam that requires hydraulic equipment. Not just me. All the humans. There are 12 of us. Anyone else strong enough to help. In zero-G, we can generate enough force to shift it. An engineer spoke up. He's not wrong, Commander. In zero gravity, moving mass is about overcoming inertia and friction. With enough people applying coordinated force, it's theoretically possible. Krell studied Taiyang for a long moment. If you're wrong, you waste time we don't have. If I'm right, we save 30 lives in the next hour instead of the next 6 hours. Krell made a decision. Show me. They suited up quickly. Emergency suits designed for potential exposure to vacuum. The humans plus Bricks and 4 other cadets who volunteered. They made their way through the station to the damaged section. The collapsed beam was exactly where the schematic showed. It had fallen across the entrance to Module 7, wedged between 2 wall sections. Behind it, they could hear muffled voices. The trapped cadets calling for help. We're here, Taiyang shouted through the beam. We're going to move this. Stay back from the entrance. He examined the beam carefully. 4 meters of solid titanium alloy. In Earth gravity, it would take a crane to move it. Here, floating in zero-G, it looked almost delicate. But looks were deceiving. Mass was mass, even without weight. We need to coordinate, he said to the group. 6 on each side. When I say push, we all push together. Same direction. Same force. If we push different ways, we'll just spin it. They positioned themselves. Taiyang and Yuna on one end. Seok and another human named Do-Yun on the other. The remaining humans and volunteers spaced along the length. On 3, Taiyang said. 1, 2, 3. Push. They pushed. The beam didn't move. Taiyang felt his muscles strain against the mass. It was like pushing a car on Earth. Difficult, but not impossible. Again, he called. 1, 2, 3. Push. This time, the beam shifted. Just a few centimeters. But it moved. It's working. Rix shouted. Keep going, Taiyang said. His arms burned. Sweat formed on his face inside the helmet. But they had to keep going. 1, 2, 3. Push. The beam moved more. They were shifting it sideways, slowly, carefully. Each push moved it a bit further. 5 centimeters. 10, 20. Commander Krell and his team watched from a safe distance. Krell was speaking into a communicator. They're actually moving it. Prepare to evacuate Module 7 the moment the entrance is clear. 1, 2, 3. Push. 30 centimeters now. The entrance was starting to open. Taiyang could see the face of a trapped cadet through the gap. Eyes wide with hope. Almost there, Yuna said. Her voice strained with effort. 1, 2, 3. Push. The beam moved enough. Not completely clear, but enough for beings to squeeze through. Stop, Krell ordered. That's enough. Evacuate the module now. The trapped cadets began pushing through the gap. One by one, they emerged. Some helped others. Some were injured. But all were alive. 30 cadets, all safe. Taiyang's arm shook. His entire body felt like it had been through the hardest workout of his life. Around him, the other humans looked the same, exhausted, sweating, but successful. The last cadet emerged. Medical teams rushed in to check everyone. Krell floated over to the humans. "You were right," he said simply. "The hydraulic equipment arrived. It took us 20 minutes to get it in position. You moved that beam in 12 minutes. We didn't do it alone," Taiyang said, nodding to Brix and the other volunteers. Brix laughed, a wet gurgling sound. "I barely helped. You humans did most of the work. I pushed as hard as I could and felt like I was doing nothing. Every bit of force mattered," Taiyang insisted. But Brix shook his head. "You held that beam while we evacuated. I saw you. All of you. Muscles shaking. But you didn't let go. You didn't quit." He looked at Taiyang with something like awe. "You're not superhuman. I understand that now. You just don't know when to stop." The story spread even faster than the previous one. Within hours, everyone in the Confederacy knew. The humans who moved an impossible weight, who saved 30 lives, who succeeded where machines would have taken too long. That night, back in their quarters, the human cadets were quiet, exhausted beyond words. "Think they're still afraid of us?" Yuna asked. Taiyang thought about the trapped cadets, the relief on their faces. The incident at Module 7 changed everything. Not overnight, but steadily, like ice melting in spring. The fear that had surrounded humans since their capabilities became known began to fade. It was replaced with something else: respect, curiosity, and from some species, hope. 2 days after the rescue, Taiyang was called to the main conference hall. When he arrived, he found it filled with high-ranking military officials. Captain Fell was there, Commander Krell, Ambassador Jiwan, and at the center table, a four-armed being with deep red skin and eyes that seemed to see through everything. Supreme General Vehex, commander of the entire Galactic Defense Forces. "Cadet Park," Vehex said. Her voice was deep and commanding. "Sit," Taiyang sat. His heart pounded. Being in a room with this much rank was intimidating. "We've been studying your species since the strength assessments began," Vehex continued. "At first, we were concerned, worried. A species as physically capable as humans, combined with clear intelligence and tool-using ability, seemed dangerous. History has taught us to be wary of such combinations." She paused, looking at a datapad. "But then we looked deeper. Dr. Kyung-shin, a human xenobiologist, provided us with extensive data about human evolution. The findings are fascinating." A screen activated behind her, showing charts and graphs. Most species follow a similar pattern. As intelligence develops, physical capability decreases. The brain requires enormous energy. Bodies adapted to become more efficient, which meant smaller, weaker, less physically demanding. We see this across nearly every intelligent species in the Confederacy. Another graph appeared. Humans don't follow this pattern. Your brains are large and energy-intensive. Yet your bodies remain strong. Why? Because Earth's high gravity demanded it. You couldn't afford to become physically weak. Your environment wouldn't allow it. So you evolved both intelligence and strength. Vehex leaned forward. This makes you unique. Not superior. Not inferior. Simply unique. And uniqueness, Cadet Park, is valuable. "I don't understand, General," Taiyang said carefully. "You asked about limits," Vehex said. "That first day of training?" A simple question. But it revealed something about human psychology. Most species accept limits when they're told what they are. You question them. You push against them. You ask why and what if instead of simply accepting. Is that wrong? Taiyang asked. No, VX said firmly. It's exactly what we need. The Confederacy has grown comfortable. We accept our protocols because they work for most species. We don't push boundaries because most species can't push them. But comfort leads to stagnation. You humans, you're uncomfortable with stagnation. Ambassador G1 spoke up. The general has a proposition. Not just for you, but for all human military personnel. The rescue at Module 7 proved something, VX said. Not that humans are strong, we already knew that. But that human strength comes with determination. You held that beam while others evacuated. Your muscles were shaking. You could have let go. Any other species would have. But you didn't. She stood and walked around the table. Brix, the Thorian cadet, said something interesting in his report. He said, humans don't know when to quit. He meant it as an observation, but I see it as a strength. You push past pain, past exhaustion, past what your body tells you is possible. This combination of physical capability and mental determination is rare. What do you want from us, General? Taiyang asked. I want to change how we train, Vahek said. Not just humans. All species. I want to incorporate human training philosophy into Confederacy protocols. The idea that limits can be questioned. That maximums might not be maximum. That with proper progression and determination, species can exceed what they think is possible. Captain Thel added, we've already seen results. The cadets who've been training with human design programs have improved beyond predictions. Species who struggled with physical requirements are meeting them now. Not because they got stronger overnight, but because they learned to push past mental barriers. You're asking me to help design training programs? Taiyang said. Not just you, Vhex replied. All the humans here, and others we'll bring in. Instructor Minji has already submitted proposals. Medical Officer Hana has provided physiological data. We want to create a new division. Specialized training focused on pushing limits safely but effectively. There will still be opposition, Jiwon warned. Councillor Dreth and his supporters haven't disappeared. But the rescue shifted public opinion dramatically. It's harder to fear someone who just saved lives. Vhex nodded. Dreth argues that human strength is dangerous. He's not entirely wrong. Any capability can be dangerous if misused. But I believe the greater danger is stagnation. The Confederacy needs to evolve. Humans can help us do that. The meeting continued for another hour. They discussed details, timelines, proposals. By the end, Tyan's head was spinning with information. When he was finally dismissed, he walked back to his quarters in a daze. Yuna met him in the corridor. Well, what did they want? Taiyang told her everything. She listened quietly, her eyes growing wider. They want us to teach the entire Confederacy to train like humans? She said finally. Not exactly like humans, Taiyang corrected. They want us to teach the philosophy. Question limits. Push boundaries. Try harder. Each species will train differently based on their physiology. But the approach will be similar. That's huge, Yuna said. I know. They walked in silence for a moment. Then Yuna laughed. Remember the first day? When you asked about limits? If you'd known where that question would lead, I'd probably have kept my mouth shut, Taiyang admitted. But he smiled. Although maybe not. It was a fair question. Over the next month, changes began to happen. Instructor Minji worked with other instructors to redesign training protocols. The focus shifted from meeting minimums to exceeding expectations. Safety remained paramount, but the definition of safe maximum was re-evaluated for every species. Dr. Kyung Shin, the xenobiologist who'd provided the human evolution data, arrived at the facility. She was energetic and talkative, excited to study how different species responded to new training methods. Every species has untapped potential, she explained to a gathered group of instructors. Evolution optimizes for survival, not maximum capability. Most species never push themselves to true limits because they don't need to. But that doesn't mean the capability isn't there. She showed data from the past month. Cadets of all species improving. Not to human levels, that wasn't the goal, but to their own personal bests. Species that had struggled with endurance training were lasting longer. Species that had barely met strength requirements were exceeding them. The key, Tiang said, is teaching them what humans learned from Earth's gravity. Every day is training. Every movement is resistance. Don't accept what you're told is your limit. Test it, question it. Push it carefully and safely, but push it. Tiang completed his basic training at the top of his class. Not just among humans, but among all cadets. His final evaluation praised his physical capabilities, but emphasized his leadership and teaching skills. The evaluator noted, Cadet Park embodies the principle of questioning limits. He has helped numerous cadets of various species exceed their own expectations. The graduation ceremony was huge. Families from dozens of worlds attended via video link. For humans, it was especially meaningful. They were the first of their kind to complete Confederacy military training. The first, but Tiang knew not the last. After the ceremony, Supreme General V. Hex approached him personally. Cadet Park, you've been offered multiple assignments. Security details, tactical units, training facilities. All good options, but Tiang sensed there was more. But I have a different offer. Stay here. Become an instructor. Help us continue developing the new training protocols. You'd start as an assistant, working under experienced instructors. But the goal would be for you to eventually lead training programs. Tiang thought about it. He'd imagined himself on starships, seeing new worlds. Being an instructor seemed less exciting. But then he thought about Bricks, who'd improved so much over the past weeks. About the cadets who'd thanked him for pushing them harder. About changing an entire military culture to embrace growth over comfort. I accept, he said. 3 months later, Tiang stood in front of a new class of cadets. 300 beings from 47 different species. They looked at him with curiosity. A human instructor was still unusual, but not unheard of anymore. Welcome to physical training, he began. I'm Instructor Tiang Park. Before we begin, I want to establish something. You will hear the phrase safe maximum many times. The equipment will tell you when you've reached it. Your body will tell you. Your mind will tell you. He paused, looking across the gathered cadets. And I want you to question it. Not ignore it. Not push past pain or injury. But question whether what you think is your limit is really your limit. Ask, what if I can do more? Ask, how do I safely push further? Ask, what are my actual limits? A cadet near the front raised a tentacle. Instructor, isn't that dangerous? Pushing past safe limits? It can be, Tiang acknowledged. That's why we do it carefully. With supervision, with proper progression. But comfortable and safe are not the same thing. Comfortable means you're not growing. Safe means you're not getting injured. We aim for safe, but uncomfortable. That's where growth happens.